All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Tori. Thank you so much for joining us today for the
Welcome.
conversation. Yeah, this is going to be, well, I'm Andrew, for anyone who doesn't know, founder Day One, and I'm here with Tori, one of our cohort 3 fellows. And I'm excited for this conversation just to learn a little bit about you and where you're coming from and what you're building. So thanks for spending time with us today.
Anytime.
Love it. Love it. Well, here's what we're going to do. I have about 5 questions. You've read them ahead of time, so I think we should be set. But I'd love to let everybody know just a little bit about you, sort of your 2 or 3 minute bio. Where are you coming from? You're in the fellowship right now, but what were you doing beforehand, sort of that career journey that led you to entrepreneurship today?
Yeah, wow. Um, so basically my whole career's been in media. And the last sort of 7 years or so, well, as you can tell, I should say, I'm from the UK, currently living in New York. And my whole career's been in media. And for the last 7 years, I was basically growing and launching businesses at the New York Times. And that was like an amazing opportunity. Absolutely loved it. And I was touching everything from e-commerce to wine clubs to school and travel. And I just realized after a while that that was like an itch that I wanted to scratch for myself. And so I started thinking about, at what point should I do that? What do I want to do? I never really had an idea, but I started jotting things down, as you do, and came up with a few that I thought were interested, and yeah, figured I'd better do something about it, or else put up or shut up. So
I love it. That's the right mentality, or I feel like that's a mentality all entrepreneurs have to come to grips with at some point, because there's a bit of throwing your hat over the wall and then going to get it, because you have no idea what this is going to really, if this is going to work out, what it's going to be, but there's just something that pulls you into it. So could you give us, so where are you in that sort of idea sort of refinement? Is it many ideas? Is it one idea? What's like the current state of how you articulate what you're building and working on right now? Like how do you state the space that you're tackling?
the space that I'm in, yeah, so I have narrowed it down to one idea, and I guess the space that I'm tackling in some ways is not too dissimilar to what you guys are doing at Day One, but with a different slant on it. So in the same way that you have like in-person classes for schools and universities and stuff, and then you have like online versions, and you have ones which are really intense and like over a short period of time, and then you have those that like go on and on and on. I'm sort of trying to tackle this more personalized approach to entrepreneurship. So rather than just this is the curriculum and it's got to fit into your schedule, which entrepreneurship is hard, and I think a lot of people talk themselves out of it because they feel like they don't have the time, and therefore they lean back before they even lean in. I wanted to sort of level the playing field a little bit, and so what I'm trying to do is to build a SaaS platform that basically allows founders or would-be founders to really tackle entrepreneurship, by sort of breaking things down into bite-sized chunks, and then providing a marketplace alongside that with like subject matter experts, so that regardless of what their background is, or their sort of level of expertise in, I don't know, tax or law or marketing, that they don't have to sort of go down a million different Google rabbit holes to try and solve everything. So that's what I'm building, and it's called the Knowledge Shop.
The knowledge shop, perfect. I mean, I love it for all those reasons you alluded to. Supporting entrepreneurs is this like vastly under-resourced space. As much as there's so much out there in the Twitter sphere and whatnot, it's like what's actually moving the needle for somebody who's at these different stages. And so love where you're starting. I'm excited for where you're going to go and get to. Here's a big question that I want to that I love to ask and I love to unpack, which is, when did you know? Like, where were the moments of conviction for you? Was it really early on when you said like, I'm just going to go do this, put up or shut up, or was it a little later on where the idea started to become real? Like, what sort of made it, made it real for you, brought you to a level of conviction of like, all right, I'm now ready for the next big phase of this journey?
I think it was a gradual sort of discovery. So like I said, like, because I was literally building and running businesses, I sort of already knew that I loved that, and that helps, you know, I liked that sort of management piece. But the process, I guess, for me was more about sort of self-discovery. And so I had enrolled in a short course at Columbia University for women in leadership. And that was really interesting. And then that got me thinking about an MBA. And so I enrolled in an MBA program, which I'm still doing, specializing in entrepreneurship as well. And so I was sort of leaning in that direction because I knew I wanted to do it. And then, you know, I think it comes a time where you're like, you know, you're riding a bike, for example, and you've got your like training wheels on, and suddenly you realize you're just going. And I sort of feel like that was where I got to.
I love that. I ask it because I feel there is almost an infinite, it's a very unique moment. But if you've never felt it, you don't know what you're feeling. And therefore it helps to just hear other people. So I like that metaphor of you had training wheels, you were doing it at sort of your day job. And then it's like, oh, this is a thing. I'm an entrepreneur now. It's happening. I imagine lots of people will have a version of that experience. So thank you for putting that metaphor in our minds. So you're not at the starting line. You know, you're past training wheels. You're rolling. I've been, you know, I know what you're working on. You're talking to folks. You're building things. What are some of the learning curves that you've had to go up as an accomplished professional, but, you know, first time in this role specifically? What have you had to learn, whether it's like a hard skill, a soft skill, just feeling it out? What are some of these learning curves that you've been tackling over the last few months?
I mean, everything. Because originally, like everybody says, you know, and I almost don't want to use it because pivot is such a cliche. But it's so true because you just learn by doing. And so I think that was probably one of the biggest things, which is like, it's okay to change your mind, you know, and it's not you're changing your mind because you just decided you want to do something else. It's because you're having conversations and you're realizing that there are other opportunities or other more important things. So it's okay to like let go of an initial idea and move in a different direction. And I think that can be hard. Like that was hard to start off with because it feels like, you know, you've got an idea and if you change your mind, you're just not convicted enough to that idea. And that wasn't the case at all. It's like, what is the market opportunity? What are the customers saying to you? You know, what is their job to be done as opposed to the job that I think they want done? So yeah, so that was, I guess, one of the things. And then more tactical, I think it's just taking the theory and putting it out into the real world. So it's one thing to learn about customer interviews, it's another to actually start doing customer interviews. And so just talking to people, listening to them, sort of starting to, you know, pick up the different threads that they talk about, and everybody says something different. So, you know, you're trying to translate exactly what that means, and also then highlights the importance of really having a sort of target market in your mind as well, because otherwise you end up just being really scattergun. And then I think also I then over-indexed on customer interviews, and I felt like I really had to have like, you know, hundreds and hundreds, whereas actually I was starting to hear some themes, and I had spent some time with Rahul, he was like my mentor and obviously your co-founder, great guy, and he was like, just build it, just start building. And so I did, and as you guys might have seen, like I've just done my landing page, it's just gone up. If anybody wants to take a look, it's theknowledge.shop. And yeah, so that's where I am now.
Oh, there's so much in there. I actually want to reflect on all those almost in order. I was keeping track. Let's see if I can keep track of them. That first thing you said of the just like the mentality of you have to go where like the customer is taking you, and switching and pivoting. You know, one of the ways that I've always unpacked that idea is like our corporate kind of trainings, first like school, and then like the corporate world sort of rewards you to have this like more like bullheadedness of like, no, if it's my project, I don't care if it's a bad project, I'm going to take it to, you know, its end and see if I can't make it work. But, you know, that's my budget. I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm not going to be, you know, there's like corporate world sort of teaches you to like play a game. And and when you get good at it, you sort of know what's coming 2 rungs in front of you, and to, you know, I found it's like a very different mentality to like what you just said, which is you have to move really fast, which might seem like you're flip-flopping, but really you actually have this like you have a different kind of conviction. So I don't know, does that like resonate with you coming from
Mm-hmm.
a successful corporate career, maybe even in one, and as you came from one organization, like you really learned the New York Times inside and out. Like, have you had to unlearn some of those corporate kind of mentalities?
Um, yes and no. And I think I was lucky because I was in the startup division within a much bigger organization. And so we were always very agile and trying to think on our feet and seeing what the opportunity was at that moment in time. But what you were saying there about, school, and I can clearly talk about that because I am in school at the moment as well. It's true. It's like, this is the process. You're going to have, this is a curriculum. You're going to do this in week 1, this in week 2, this in week 3, and then you have to literally join up all the dots, and you have like an assessment at the end, and you don't deviate from that. That's literally what it is. Whereas now, of course, it's like, well, I know I want to build something, I want to tackle this problem, but I really don't know how I'm going to get there, and where things are going to go. And so that is just the toughest piece.
Yeah. And then I'm going to tie that into what you said second on there, prior answer of like, talking to customers, it's one of those like properly foundational things you need to do, but then you can over index, and you sort of like felt out your gut, right? I want to like click in on that because I was talking with another fellow, one of your colleagues here in day one, about that same thing. And he wasn't able to trust his gut, or he was asking me, how do I find, where does my, when do I stop? How do I synthesize? And it's one of those things that, I mean, you kind of, part of your preface was you almost have to learn it by doing it, right? But if I just focus on there, any other like tips and tricks for like how you learned it? Like you said, you saw threads. What did that begin to look like for you? Like maybe even an example, like did something, do you have an example of maybe something that did become clear as you heard it or saw it, that you're like, okay, now I'm beginning to, it's not like statistically significant data, but I can build on this. Like this is happening. I don't know. What's that been like for you over the last months, and whether it was within day one or your broader journey? Any kind
Yeah.
of ways there?
Yeah, I think really what I identified was that there are these two sort of untapped, I guess, personas, if you will, or opportunities. And one of them is they're a entrepreneur. They really want to do something, or they're really, really early stages, and they've just been like going round in circles, and they don't really know what it is. And that really became very clear when I posted this poll on LinkedIn, just saying, what's been holding you back from launching. And it was I think fear of failure and not having an idea. And those were the two things, and these are like all really, because it's LinkedIn and it's pretty corporate, and these were all really quite successful people who were responding. So those were like two very tangible outcomes I could see. But then also when I was interviewing people, the same type of thing would come up. It was like, how do I even come up with an idea? Like I just don't know, how do I find time? And then for the other persona type, which is like the established founder, I was here, and this is where the like original concept of the knowledge shop came in, which was it was going to be just the marketplace, and it was going to be subject matter experts on everything. So it could be a subject matter expert on blockchain or crypto, or I don't know, climate change, depending on what you were in. Yeah, a little bit of everything. But actually, the areas that kept coming back were much more business specific. It was, I'm really at my, I'm at a bandwidth. My expertise is whatever. My expertise is not tax, and it is not law, and it is not marketing. And actually, that's where I could really do with the help. And I think it's because up to now, there's so much emphasis on, like in the industry, on working with big consultancy firms and like having to hire somebody for like a specific project, as opposed to necessarily just, I just need to know what to ask somebody. I just need to know enough information to be able to have a, half decent, half intelligent conversation. I need a matrix style download to really help me with that. And so that was what surprised me. I didn't think it was going to be the more business type outcomes, because I felt like that was already being met. But that's what's come out of it.
That's I mean, this is a very meta conversation because we're talking about you as a founder. You're focused on founders, so I resonate with even those insights, which is, there was one point in starting day one where I thought through, like, what are the things a founder needs to be good at to make it through this early stage, and the list is long, right? At some point, you're going to be asked to be both a COO, a CFO, a CMO, a CPO, a CTO. And nobody has all these skills, right? So it's a little wonky that founders even get somewhere. And of course they ask for help, and they have co-founders, and they embed inside of communities, and eventually they'll have the knowledge shop to just like pick and choose. Like it's a lot. Right? It's very daunting to think about it in terms of what needs doing. So actually I'll use that to segue either into our last question or second to last, which is, how have you sort of worked that through? We talked about your learning curves, but how have you figured out, or what are some of the hurdles that you've had to face, whether they're these business functional ones, or, it's a similar question to the idea of your learning curves, but like maybe like in a real kind of moment of realness, like what's been hard or challenging that you've had to overcome in the last months as you've kind of navigated this early stage?
I mean, I think building in public was quite a big one, because, and I think girls specifically are worse at this, the whole perfectionist thing. Like, you feel like you have to have everything completely buttoned up before you put it out there, and that isn't the case. And I think what helped there was I read Brave Not Perfect just before, and like that sort of gave me a bit of a kick up the bum too. But yeah, so building imperfect and really putting things out there was a big learning. And then I think also, again, this is more of like a personal thing, but that it's okay not to have, I guess it really is a reiteration of what I said before, like it's okay to not have all of the answers, and to just do stuff and to just try stuff, because like a lot of the processes and stuff I knew, but like it's very different from the theory to the practical, actually making it happen.
Oh my gosh. And I just love how you're personifying just, I mean, you just claimed you had to learn it, but you also embraced it. I don't know this, but I'm going to do it, because that's the only way you're going to learn it, is to do it. It's a catch-22 that you have to somehow break through.
Yeah.
And it's almost what separates the entrepreneurs from the entrepreneurs, because you'll never get in the game otherwise. So properly, the last question then is, what could people who are listening and help you with? Where are you looking forward, literally your next step? What are you like looking to accomplish, and what could people help out to help you get there?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how quickly they start watching this video later. But right now, because I'm developing like an online course, I am thinking about online instructional design. So that is a term that I only learned last week, because I was talking to somebody who happened to have a background in like online education, and specifically thinking about how does content translate into, I guess, like engaging like bite-sized pieces and things like that. So if there's somebody there who's an expert in online instructional design, that would be really useful to talk to. And then sort of related to that too, it's around like gamification. And I don't really like the word gamification because it sort of feels a bit manipulative, but really just like engaging, like trying to help people stay engaged, to really get them from ideation to exit, which is sort of what my mission is.
Yeah, I think you're right. Gamification, word that doesn't mean much to, or the right thing to enough people, but you're right. Like, how do you keep people helping themselves throughout the program or the tool or whatever it might be? So love it. Hopefully we get this up there soon enough. I mean, you'll still be tackling that problem probably in a minute as well. So I just think it's really useful, or it's very interesting to even just, again, get like right down to where you are on the ground of where are you working next? Like, what does a founder do when they're just in the messy middle? Will they take the next big step? So Tori, thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up there. That was just about 15 or 20 minutes, and we got to really hear your journey, what you're working on, challenges, what's next. And it's an amazing snapshot of what it's like to be an early stage founder. So thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. See ya. Bye.
See ya.